As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission, I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain, keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH-LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Mr. Randall, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Absolutely. 10-4, 10-4. What are some, actually, before we get into the details, what are some of the codes that you guys use? People may not know your background, but what are like 211, 411, what are some of the codes that you've used in your past?
For what?
When you call them dispatcher, when you call it dispatcher, they'll say what some of the code numbers.
Well, it's there's a whole mess, and there's a whole list of codes.
Yeah.
Signal 8 is a suspicious person. 22 is a automobile accident. I mean, there's like 100 something.
Yeah. Give me two more. Two
more. Signal 3 is for a supervisor. God.
How about code red? What's the worst thing if like a super emergency?
It really is not. We really didn't have a code red. You had to, whatever the emergency was, there was a thing for it. Like a code for it.
Well, I have 55 more minutes to drill you, so I just wanted to kind of tease people that, given your several decades, it was almost 30 years, right?
40.
Almost 4 decades.
Oh, it was 41.
So more than 4 decades on the New Haven police service, and also 10 years with
no, let's divide it up. Okay. 21 years with New Haven.
Okay.
20 years with Southern.
Okay, good.
Just working New Haven.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And really, you're right. Those are sometimes even artificial demarcations, because a murder on Southern's campus is a murder in New Haven.
New Haven, or a death on Southern's campus is a death in New Haven. So
and people we get caught up in our 30 wards and our various neighborhoods and our various ethnicities and our various titles, but really it's one planet. As you may have guessed, everybody, I'm chatting with Rick Randall. You retired from New Haven Police Service. You were a lieutenant?
Captain.
A captain. And I'm not going to ask you your title at Southern, but you're chief cook and bottle washer at Southern.
I retired in Southern as a lieutenant.
As lieutenant as well. And it's really great for us to spend these next 40 or so minutes, and glad you could make yourself available. As some know, this month, July, is my second anniversary as an alder in one of the wards here in New Haven. We have 30 wards in New Haven, and Rick and I live in Ward 28. And he was kind enough to kind of come on the show today. And we've chatted. Just dawns on me, Rick, as I look at you, that we've had several chats on the porch, on my stoop, about public service before I even had any. I'll use the term fantasy, but before I even had any fantasy of being officially involved with public affairs and public safety from an alder standpoint. But Rick, it seems to me that we've talked in the past about when you had your Edgewood Library situation, and also I think it was you and Bridget Russell had an event at the Community Outreach Center. I know we've talked about predators in the past and the family business and generational pass-throughs in that regard. I'll say narcotics, Billy. I'll just phrase it that way. Southern students, of course, even training, police training over the years, and what that means moving forward.
Well, that's probably the biggest thing going on in the police industry now is training, because there's no national training. I mean, there is no national standard for police training. If you look at it, in the old days, you had the New York, Boston, which was the East Coast, and the LA, which was the West Coast. And then you had all the middle, which was willy-nilly, the type of training that they got, because there's really no standard. I mean, they try to, quote, professionalize it, But if you look at the middle of the country, other than some of the big cities, there is really no true standard that everybody has to abide by, which is very interesting because what may happen on the East Coast or what may happen in the cities on the East Coast may not be exactly the same way that policing will be done in the South or policing will be done in the Midwest. And
Indeed.
it's just different types. So,
Indeed, indeed. And I'm going to even drill down a little bit more about even though you and I might not be king of the world thus far, and our wives certainly challenge that belief
Period.
system. But certainly in New Haven, I'm going to kind of ask you about what we can be doing more from a training standpoint. I serve on the public safety committee, and the chair is our companion, Alder Brian Wingate. Also, I'm going to ask you about speed bumps and Kia boys, et cetera. But how do you want to begin in terms of the context of?
I
just
would,
wanna, go ahead.
I would probably want to, draw down on training,
Okay,
because that is well, two things: training and how do we retain officers?
good. Your police contract, et cetera, right?
Well, police contract, but also, a sort of a broader look at how to retain officers.
Yes.
Because I think we're missing a big thing as far as contracts concerned, or of looking at the contract or what the city offers to their employees, not just police officers, but to their employees.
Mhm.
Probably the biggest thing, as far as I'm concerned, is medical. And one of the ways I fantasize that this can be corrected is that all the big cities in Connecticut and even some of the smaller ones get together and do their medical as one unit because they get a better package. But and once they get that out of the way, then the police departments can, or the cities can, then look at their unions and say, okay, the medical's out of the way. This is what we're going to get. This is what we
Yes.
have. This is probably the best package that you'll ever get. So let's not talk about that, because it's going to be a lot better than what you have now.
Mhm.
Now let's talk, nuts and bolts about what to do in training, what to do in police work. What the unions need, which would be pensions, 401ks, because 401ks, cops can go anywhere.
Mhm.
Their 401k and say, I'm going to Bridgeport, I'm going to Guilford, I'm going to wherever. So it changes sort of the dynamic once you get those two things out of the way.
Indeed.
Um,
And so focus. So let's segue into also the actual from a consumer standpoint, from a citizen standpoint, from a resident standpoint. Training is kind of an ambiguous term. We can go down into the weeds. What kind of training you think you'd like to see? If you were king of training down on the boulevard right now as we speak, what would you like to see happening?
Well, the thing with training, and one of the things that I have sort of been wrestling with for forever in my career, was this so-called warrior mentality. That I don't know where cops get it from. I don't know why they have it. I am a true believer that you don't need a warrior mentality, and the reason why is that if you have a warrior mentality, you have to have an enemy. If you're a police officer, who's your enemy? The enemy would end up being the public. Whoever you run into the public, they're the enemy, and you can't have that. If you have a guardian mentality, which is the one I sort of like to adopt, is that you guard people against themselves sometimes. I mean, you guard them from the outside world, but you also guard them against themselves. I mean, if you look at a sheepdog, when a lamb or something sort of wanders off, he sort of corrals it and brings it back to the fold. And the guardian mentality will probably stop if we train in that regard. A lot of these types of, I shot him because I didn't take time to look because what comes to mind is that Florida incident where you had the worker on the ground with a patient, and who's playing with a truck, and they shot him thinking they were going to shoot, a bad shot, that he was going to shoot the person with the truck. Why? They weren't listening to him. They didn't focus on what was going on. They had this warrior mentality. Something's going to happen. I have to shoot. I have to decide. And that's part of the problem. That's why you have a lot of these shootings. And when you look back and say, why did they shoot? It's the mindset that they went in with. They weren't guarding this person either against themselves or whatever. It's the mindset they went in with.
What kind of battles did you have either at Southern or the city? Because certainly I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you initially joined the force knowing this, that you saw yourself to be a guardian and believed in community policing. What kind of battles did you encounter with folks that
battles?
didn't?
Well, some things were I could have shot and didn't. Me and an Officer Veloza we're on a routine call of somebody disturbing the peace, and we were walking up the stairwell, and we found the person, we talked to him. Something was a little off, but told him, look, if you're not knocking on people's fences with the stick or whatever, if you are, stop, and if you're not, then don't worry about it. As we're walking down the stairwell, we hear a click. As we turned around, he had a shotgun, a loaded shotgun, and he actually fired it. And basically, he had to drop on us. Again, I'm looking at it. Just says something was wrong with him when we talked to him. It's like, what are you shooting at? And he said, I'm shooting at spirits. He's shooting at spirits, but we're not the spirits. But he's seeing things, and he's shooting at spirits. And I mean, Veloza was behind me. Officer Veloza was behind me, and I said, well, you can't kill him with your man-made thing. You need something from nature. And I traded my nightstick for that shotgun. Well, could I have shot him? Technically, yes. Technically, that would have been a good shoot. But it didn't go off. What do we have here? I mean, we have a Mexican standoff.
Yes.
Is he mad at us? We left him actually in good in good spirits. What is he shooting at?
Yes.
Why did I come to that conclusion? I don't know. I mean, that it was off the hand. My Dave's tapping me. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm trading this nightstick for this. Just be quiet. He gave me the shotgun. I gave him the nightstick. We wrapped him up, called the ambulance, wrapped him up with the nightstick. And the ambulance drivers, we can't. I said, wrap him up with the nightstick, take him to the hospital. Mental health training is another thing that we, that needs to be concentrated on, because we don't recognize, as an industry, we don't recognize people in mental crisis very well. We recognize them most of the time as a threat. We don't recognize them as very well as this may be a mental crisis. There are agencies now that are teaching that to police officers. I know New Haven is taking part in it, so that they can better recognize people in mental crisis. It helps a lot when you can recognize if somebody's talking to themselves, if they, are they hearing voices, what is going on, so you can better sort of quote guard them against themselves, guard them against guard them. Again, if you see them as an enemy, you don't need to guard them anymore. And that, again, that's my major problem with police work today, is that a lot of officers just, you have to have that warrior mentality. And I'm like, no, you don't have to. You don't need a warrior mentality. You need a guardian mentality.
That's really helpful. Walk me down memory lane, if you would indulge me a little bit. Let's go to Edgewood, the library there at the Edgewood substation. What was that all about?
Well, that was New Haven's foray into community policing. So they built all these substations, and what I did, I took them at their word that you want community policing. So I, went to St. Raphael's and asked them if they, want to help with this community policing project at our substation, and they said, well, yeah. So they said they offered some of their staff to staff the library. And to, and then we went to the schools and said, look, we're going to have an after school library. So after, Troop, Dwight, those kids can come right to us, and we can have an after school program. And actually it was good for parents, because parents can then, if they're working, whatever, have a place to pick up their kids. They have a safe place where the kids can go. And then it was also at the height of KSI. And so I had the officers say, look, from this hour to this hour, the kids are coming home from school, you're going to be on these corners, making sure that these kids can get safely from point A to point B.
But take a deep breath just on that point, because although you and I are young in spirits, we've been around the track a few times. So when you say KSI, that might not. For
I'm sorry,
people that are listening, they might have no idea what that means.
KSI was a gang that we sold drugs in the Kensington neighborhood, where my substation was right in the middle of. As a matter of fact, the substation was built. They threatened to blow it up. And basically, I had the officers shut down any kind of commerce that they had going until they yelled, "Uncle, we didn't mean it. We didn't mean it. We didn't mean it." But that's KSI. It was it's Kensington Street, gang in that area.
And it's fair to say, and again, someone that might be listening to the show who is either a former member or an alumni of KSI or a family member, and so I don't hesitate to say this, but they were rather well known. You tell me that how well known and how threatening were they?
Right. They were well known. They there were several at that time, several gangs in the area in New Haven. Each of them had their territory marked out. And my substation just happened to be in that one, but there were several.
How did that fit into your community policing philosophy?
Okay, well, the community policing, there's two things. There's the law enforcement part, where we had to do, which we worked with the federal government to, once we got them in court, that they would take these cases over and then put them away on federal time. So it's not just police officers being social workers. There's a law enforcement aspect of this, and we're willing to use it.
Yes.
And then that's the thing. It's that everybody thinks that when we talk about community policing, that they're talking about, they're social workers and so on and so forth. That is not the case. That's far from the case. It is also getting the community involved. I mean, we had officers carrying, at that time, they didn't have cell phones, they were carrying beepers. And when somebody saw something, they would beep the officer and say, "I see such and such, such, such," and
yes,
the officer would then go out and investigate it. It would be either the officer, the beat officer, or beep me, and I would send officers out to investigate it.
Excellent.
So
excellent.
It was a two-pronged approach. You have the federal government, hopefully, once we started arresting people, to take the ball and put them away for forever. And then we had the community involvement, and they would come to the community meetings at the substation and talk about what their concerns were and how their concerns were addressed. That was, the core of it. I was actually very lucky because I had the opportunity to talk to, on several occasions, George Kelling, who wrote the book, was a co-author of Broken Windows. So I got to understand exactly, sort of what he meant by it versus what people were sort of taking and saying, well, they mean being social workers, and how a lot of departments were sort of incorporating it. His ultimate dream was to have the actual city government more involved in what he called community governing, which was a combination of using community policing.
I like that term.
LCI, livable cities, was sort of an outgrowth.
Good to know. Good.
Of that mentality. But as you know, as cities work, when the money runs dry, the federal government stops funding things, then those things sort of go by the wayside. I don't know. I know LCI is still around, but
yes, very much so. Yes.
But a lot of the programs, a lot of the things that were started, sort of ended. Once there's no money, the city's not going to put their money to it. And that's where community government comes in, and also a community participation, where we have to be less narcissistic about our taxes. We have to say, look, we're looking for a better community. We're part of this community. We may have to spend a little bit more for that.
Indeed. Let's stay, if we can, on this retrospective reflection. And I hope you've had your coffee this morning, or your ginkgo, or whatever it has helped.
Oh, my Diet Coke is right here.
Your Diet Coke's so good to keep you going. But it seems to me, just as you were chatting again, that what flashed into my mind was, and I want you to, if you're willing to elaborate, you and Bridget Cogswell, I believe it was an event that you had at the Community Outreach Center.
Yeah, we did several events. That was one of them. That again was one of those, looking at the community, going, police department, social worker going to the community and saying, look, what's going on? What do you need? How can we address these things? And again, taking an approach. The police department doesn't have all the answers. Social workers or the social doesn't have all the answers, but together we can come up with a way to address some of these problems. Take the projects up Brookside.
Yep.
Okay.
And Alder Honda Smith is very much involved now in that.
Now,
in that area.
but take it, go back. Let's go back. Well, I left 20 years ago. Let's go back 20 some odd years ago, or 30 years.
Yes.
And we're looking. We're talking to the people up in Brookside, and what is your problem? And, their biggest problem was, we don't, after 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, buses don't come up here.
Mm-hmm.
How, and a lot of us don't have cars, and we have license, you don't have a license, or we don't have a car, or our car's not registered, but we can't get to work because we can't get buses up here. How do we solve that problem? We, call the connected bus company and says, look, they need to have bus services up there. Well, we'll have a police officer up there. As a matter of fact, I saw one of them yesterday. We'll have a police officer up there to make sure that they're safe for that period of time.
Yes.
The bus to 1 o'clock or whatever the case may be. To this day, they're running the buses up there so people can get out of it because they were trapped.
Yes.
They were trapped. We can't work, we can't get out, they were trapped. How do we get them out of that trap? As a police officer, I don't have I don't really have an answer for that because there's nothing that I can do as an officer per se to get them out of that. But going outside of outside of that and saying, maybe there's a phone call that can be made that can get other people involved to get that they can get out of there.
Yes.
That's the community policing part. That's the part where you sort of look at a problem and say, can we solve this problem? So so that it's no longer a problem. That problem is no longer a problem for them. Not that to say they're not going to have other problems, but we can take that problem away and say, okay, that's done. Let's focus on something else.
Indeed. You've had it. We have about 40 or so more minutes, so we can still kind of just, but however the spirit moves you and things that kind of cross your mind, it dawns on me that you've had in the last year or so, maybe last 8 or 9 months, 6 months, perhaps a little more time to kind of reflect and sit down and relax. And I guess wonder when you and again, when you've done something for 40 years, even if you don't want to think about it, even if it's been happy, your mind goes elsewhere. But let me get to the point. Is it possible to even juxtapose the community policing governing city concept and layer that in terms of the what people might call the Kia Boys pandemic? What are your thoughts about the Kia Boys situation?
The Kia Boys, which is
the cars and the thefts and the young people.
Well, we have gone probably a little bit too far. We closed. What do we do to these kids when we catch them? What do we do? We turn them back out in the street. If they're under 16 or whatever it is, I think it's now up to 17 or 18. We turn them back out in the street. Once we do that, they're going to go back out and say, well, we can do it again because they're not, there's no punishment, real punishment for them. So it's sort of like this stick and a carrot. Right now, there's no stick, there's no carrot, and we have a problem. We have to go back to say, okay, we have to figure out how we can sort of say we have to get these kids off the street somewhere. Doesn't have to be the long lane, but somewhere where we can say, look, you're going to go to this camp, you're going here, you're going to this school, you're going to do this, and we're going to make sure that you don't repeat this. In order for you to get out, the carrot, you have to complete this program.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do that. Right now, we're willy-nilly. We don't have it. We don't want to put them away. But we turn them back out in the street, and the problem just keeps going on and on and on and on. And on. So again, that's one of those problems that you look at and says, how come it wasn't a problem maybe 20 years ago? Why is it a problem now? What were we doing then that may put a stop to it, or sort of hindered it a little bit, but also was maybe bad in some other aspect. How can we improve that, what we did before, improve it in such a way that we can make sure that we hinder the progress of kids coming back out and just committing the same crimes over and over and over again. The other night, kids going through cars. We caught one. My daughter parked her car here while she's on vacation, and somehow the car lock got unlocked. And we have a camera, and the kid was had just gotten to the car and opened the door and yelled at him, and he ran up the street. But they just come up and just say, okay, we're just going to do this. What do we do when we catch him? What do we do when we catch him? And that's the sort of the policing part of it, where we have to have a way to deal with them once they're caught.
When you hear the people wanting speed bumps and other things, and you and I live on a street that's been recently paved, and it's now has been somewhat similar to the Indianapolis 500 from some days. What does that say about human behavior, or is it just
why do you think they come up the street at 80 miles an hour, or 70 miles an hour?
Share with the audience. You have speculated.
Okay, if you look at just our street, Bellevue Road. Okay, if you look up Crescent and Boulevard, you have a light. Okay, so if I see that light turning red in the line, I'm going to turn down Bellevue and say I want to go, up the Boulevard. I can go up Bellevue all the way to Gough, and then maybe hit that light rather than going up Gough. I mean, going up the Boulevard and hitting all the lights going up. So in that regards, the deterrent is, if I put speed bumps down, they're not going to want to bump the car, bump their the underneath of their car, and their muffler or whatever system. But a lot of them sit low, so they don't want to do that. If they're running, and what I mean by running, if they happen to be running from, say, an incident, shots fired, and they're running, they're not going to want to run. They'll not going to run on a road that has speed bumps. They're going to they will take the light, maybe run the light, but they're not going to run because they're afraid that something will happen to the car or something will happen to them. And so so you deter them from using those streets. You're not going to get speed bumps, say, on Crescent Street. It's actually a main drag. I mean, I've heard people say, "Oh, I can't get speed." It is a main drag, and you have fire engines, ambulances, fire emergency ambulances that have to use that main drag to get from point A to point B, and that you're not going to put speed bumps on Whaley Avenue, but right. You can do on those smaller streets in between, where the residents will say, yeah, I don't mind them because I know they're there, and I want people to travel safely through my neighborhood. So it's a deterrent, and that's how I look at it. It's a deterrent. You're finding them now, on Huntington Avenue going down toward Whitney Avenue. They're now putting speed bumps there. On Highland down toward Whitney Avenue, they're putting speed bumps. So those neighborhoods that say, we don't want this happening here, they're putting speed bumps. And even in neighborhoods where you think that they don't want them, where was I the other day? Winthrop Avenue, they have speed bumps there. So again, it's a deterrent for them to, people that want to use these cross streets to go elsewhere.
Excellent. Let's shift for a second, a little bit to, if I can use the term, public responsibility. What is the public's role? It's kind of not necessarily a softball question to you, but I keep on, when I send out our incident reports, et cetera, about people just not locking their cars, but that might be just one example of, I'm curious about why you think people don't lock their cars. But what in general, at the macro or the micro level, what is as you kind of had these times now to kind of reflect on
I go back to Robert Peel's rules for policing, and one of his rules was that policing is just an extent of the public, and what the public should be doing. If you look at it that way, police officers simply have the charge that every citizen should have.
Mm, mm, mm.
So yeah, do you really want the police officer to be responsible for you not locking your car? The answer to that should be no. I should take all the precautions that I can to help those people those officers, to help them do their job. So if my car is locked and somebody's checking the cars and my car is locked, but I see them walking down the street checking the cars, I can call knowing that, all the cars are locked, but I can call the police department and they can catch this guy. If they don't come with their sirens blaring so he doesn't run away, they can catch this guy doing, I can say, I can be responsible citizen to say, yes, that's the person. He's wearing a red jacket and he has a hoodie on. He just threw the hoodie away or just threw the mask away and he's walking down the street. I can give them a detailed description of what's going on. And then the cops who are charged to do their job can do their job more efficiently. Yes, that is the public's responsibility. The public does have a responsibility to do as much as they can to help the police officer. It's sort of like, I have a lot of teachers in my family, and they always say the parents have a responsibility to prepare their kids to go to school. The public has a responsibility to help the police department do their job. And that's probably the best way to look at it. As a parent, you have a responsibility to prepare your child as much as you possibly can to get into kindergarten, to read, write, know their numbers, know their colors, because you can teach that at home. You have the same responsibility that to help the police department do their job as witnesses, which was the whole concept of block watches back in the day when they had the block watch concept. See as much as you can, give as much as you can, and then have the police department do their job. So it's an age old way of looking at policing.
And you and I are getting younger by the day, so that's
yeah, we're getting
keep that in mind. In terms of and this is so helpful, everything you've mentioned. Share a little bit, Rick, if you would, about the cameras and whether they're helpful or not for people to kind of have cameras and the connection there, in lieu of having an active block.
You're talking about the house cameras?
Yeah, in lieu of having an active block watch, are the cameras sometimes a remedy or an alternative?
It really depends how they're used. I know when it's sort of like when Ring first came about before it was brought out by Amazon, their concept was to have all the Ring cameras actually connected to the police department, so they can see and when the Ring person having the camera can relay their film or their digital images to police departments. I don't think that took off. Amazon bought it, and they have both Ring and Blink cameras. I don't know why they just don't settle on one, but so it helps, but it helps the individual. But the thing is that if I'm not home and my camera goes off, all I can do is some of them I can yell at the person, but I can call the police. But by the time the response, they're long gone. Yes, I can put the digital image in the cloud. I can give it to them. If they're wearing a mask, it's not going to help them. That's going to help them. So it's a good deterrent for those who want to be deterred.
So, by implication, some folks are not really deterred by.
Well, if I know if you're a Ring camera, I have a mask on, you're not going to be able to see who I am. If I do it at night, well, they do work very well at night. But if I do it and I'm snatching a package off the porch.
The porch thieves, right?
Yeah. Porch. The cops not going to get me. By the time that they respond, I'm going to be long gone. So criminals adapt.
Indeed.
I mean, they're very good at adapting, and we have to, as a community, adapt to what they're doing.
Good point.
And that's the thing. And is there a way that we can have our packages delivered to a place where that's secure that we can go pick it up? We have to adapt so that the porch pirates are not, cannot do what they do by just jumping out and just grabbing packages. Right. Can they be delivered? Can we build a place where they say, okay, this is secure. You can pick up your package between the hours of whatever, 6 days a week. Okay. Where can that be? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there, but
Right.
that would be a way. So yeah, have my package delivered to such and such Willie Avenue. That's where all the packages are delivered to, and you can come pick them up.
Well,
Again,
I
that will
I
take
have
care
I,
of
I have my packages, as you know, on my porch because I know that you can see them because that's why I've been relying upon you.
Yeah.
So you
Well,
continue.
it's
You
real. Yeah, I
continue to do
can.
that.
That's absolutely right. I can.
You
You know,
continue
I
to
can.
do that. I've retained you and been paying you those big bucks for that private security service. Let's jump a little second for a second to the Southern, and I'm not picking on students that are going to be on college campuses for the first time, or actually next month, August. Uh, and I think people don't really appreciate the need for campus security. What are some of the things that you would want to say to a student that's going to be entering a campus anywhere in the world for that matter, about their safety, about their public responsibility? I think people underestimate the need um, for folks like you, and you, as you say, you were at Southern for, I think you said 10 years, was it?
It's yeah,
20 years.
good.
Yeah.
20,
So what
20
are some advice
it,
you'd like to give a student when they enter this campus environment in terms of staying safe and healthy and not being subject to
well,
criminality?
well, some of the same things you tell you tell you tell the general public. Staying safe, travel in numbers. Like we know you're gonna travel. You know you're gonna go downtown, but do it in numbers. The other thing is drinking is is a big part of what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like I always tell freshmen, if you can make it through your freshman year without getting thrown out because you were drunk, party too hardy, then you've learned how to to navigate that part of the education experience.
Mm-hmm.
And every freshman has to do it. And there are some that never have to do it because I don't drink, I don't do this, I don't do that, and they're fine. But there's a good portion of them, like maybe 65%, that are going to go through that. Out of that 65%, probably a good 10% of that 65% will flunk out. And you try to the university has ways to sort of try to capture them and put them on the right path. But again, a percentage of them are like I use the bell curve. A percentage of them are not going to make it. Our job is protect them, again, as a guardian, protect them from themselves. Okay, you're drinking, we're going to send you to the hospital. In order for you to come back to campus, you have to, these are the things you have to do. You have to meet the discipline officer and do all these things. You're going to have to go to counseling, and hopefully you get to save some of them. You get to all of them, you get to save some of them. The other thing is that policing on a campus is slightly different than policing in the real community.
Yeah.
Because you have other tools that you can use. I mean, you have tools that the campus offers that you can use, that you can divert students to. You don't have to make that disorderly arrest right away, because you have the tool to say, look, we're gonna you're gonna be on notice that if you screw up again, you're out. So you have other tools to use, and a lot of times when you come from the outside community to a campus as a police officer, you sort of have to get out of that mindset that I'm sending everybody to court. I got to arrest everybody. You don't have to arrest everybody. Here are the tools that are at your disposal. Use them.
Yes.
And the community needs to know that, because if they have a problem, you can contact the campus police, and they can sort of go out and say, okay, I see the problem, and they can use the school's tools to rein those kids in. I know, because kids live off campus, and a lot of times they cause a ruckus in the community. And what do we do about it? They call the regular police. Oh, we're going to be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. They can be actually pulled inside the campus.
Good. That's a good point.
Network, and be controlled that way. You get another call from you. You're out, or going to suspend you, or we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And again, they're hopefully they are there for an education. Those kids who are there to party are going to party no matter what, and the only thing that you can do is sort of get rid of them. But those kids that who are there ultimately to get an education they'll conform.
Excellent. That's correct me if I'm wrong, but you were involved with internal affairs, correct?
Twice, yes, in both departments.
So talk about that, the need for that. And again, I'm not trying to blackball or whiteball or, I mean, we're all human. We're all human from from a fundamental analysis. What's the need for internal affairs?
The need for an internal, it's very interesting because it's, you know, people just say, well, it used to get the bad cops off the road. I always thought of it as a little bit more than that. Yes, good cops will make a mistake, but bad cops, it's not a mistake, and you have to be able to distinguish between the good cop and the bad cop. And you know, also, when I left, when I was there in New Haven, I had a database, and my database consisted of the type of complaints that I was getting, and some of the complaints I couldn't do anything about, but there were complaints. So what do you do with those? So what I used to do, I used to get, you know, complaints that, you know, that I don't like the way how the, you know, cops were talking to me. Well, did they swear at you? No, but you know, they were talking down to me. What do you do with that type of complaint? It's not a complaint that I can take the kid and say, stop talking that way.
Mm-hmm.
What I used to do is collect those type of complaints and go to training. So we got these type of complaints. I can't do anything with them, but we need to begin to train our officers to be better aware, cognizant of what they're doing when they're talking to people, or they be better aware of what they're doing when they're approaching these people in these neighborhoods. And we need to begin, it's your job as trainers to begin to train to that, to begin to educate them to that. My job at that point was that I'm gathering these things because of the database, and I can show you quantitatively what's going on, and you know, that some officers, I can show you that they're just bad officers and we can deal with that. But some of it is just passed down from officer to officer. Oh, you know, you don't have to worry about them. They, you know, just, you know, they don't care. Which is also a bad attitude problem, because a lot of officers believe that their badge, you know, gives them a, you know, it's a cure-all. I don't, you know, I have this, I have my badge, and then I don't need to have a relationship with the community. And if you have that attitude, that I have my badge and I don't need a relationship, then your relationship to the community is bad. No matter what you think, you have a relationship with the community. And if you think you don't have one, then I can tell you right off the bat, your relationship is bad. Internal affairs is necessary for that, to get those bad apples off the street, or get those bad apples re-educated. If they're good, if they're bad apples, you want to get them off the street. You know, you can name the few, as you say. What'd you call Billy?
Well, let's shift to that for a second, and we're not going to rebury or recastigate or rebrand people that are now in the grave. But there was that episode in New Haven for, unfortunately, more than 1 year, and there are unfortunately still descendants of those family members that were kind of caught up in some malfeasance with the police person. And so that there's somewhat of that residue still in the community.
And it's very, again, you have to go back to that community government policing, community government. If you think about, say, the late 90s, what we were doing, all the programs that we had for kids, all the program that we had for after school programs, all those things, we took care of a lot of the kids, junior high school, grade school at that point. And a lot of those kids became very successful. What we did not concentrate on were the kids that were not in that age group, the 2-year-olds, the 3-year-olds, the infants that were born. When they became of age, 5 and 6, there were no programs for them. There was nothing. We weren't getting any federal money. We stopped it. A lot of those kids were kids from incarcerated people. Okay. We didn't do anything to try to keep those kids at that time, because they were so young, out of the system that they were primed to go into once they became of age. Hold on. Okay. Just for a second. Mom, can I call you back? Yes, let me call you back. Okay. Bye. And what happens, we didn't have anything for those kids that were coming up after all our programs ended. And where did they go?
They continued in the family business.
They considered in the family business. We weren't able to extrapolate them from it to say there's a better way.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was no better way, and they went the way of that was provided for them. And we were very, very bad of giving them a choice. Again, we have to do better of saying that this is only as long as we get money from the federal government or for whatever program, fighting back or whatever program that was giving us money at the time. We have to say we want to incorporate this program because it's going to be better for us as a community or as a society in the long run.
Yes.
Not be so short-sighted about it.
Rick, we have about 10 minutes. Let's just kind of wrap up. And as perhaps there's something we discussed in these last 40 or 50 minutes that has sparked your memory or caused you to want to elaborate on, I'm tempted to ask about your rehabilitation, and only in the sense that life sometimes gets throw tricks, tricks and curveballs. And how do you respond and rehabilitate yourself and still stay optimistic in terms of the fragility of just this existence? And as you know, I just celebrated a birthday yesterday, and certainly I'm very much into a reflective mode in that regard. Go ahead, please.
It's interesting. Some of the ways it's really interesting. A police officer, a colleague that I had at Southern, just made sergeant. He went to another state agency and he made sergeant. He called me up and he said, Rick, I'm a sergeant now. And he says, congratulations. Those are the things that sort of keep me going. When some people call you or you get together and they tell you that you touch them in a way to keep them focused on what I thought was right, and it helped them. Those are the things that keep me going. I sure like your radio show when you hear from people. Those are the things that keep you going. But those are the things that keep me going. Keeping in touch with some of the people that like, again, they're still in the industry. They're still out there in the street. Keeping in touch with them and seeing how well they're doing. And sometimes giving them advice. Saying, I'll get called and say, I got this problem.
Yes.
And can you help me with it? And if I can, I say, certainly I will help you with your, I will help you with that problem. So that sort of keeps me going. At some point,
just as a personal note for our listeners, Rick is going through a rehab, and my wife has mentioned that I'm going to put you on blast, that she caught you at a funeral that you should not. I'm not sure your doctor would have approved of your going, but that was, I guess, another example of your commitment.
Well, he was actually a mentor of mine, Marshall Gambrell. I mean, he was from the time I was a rookie cop on. He trained me, got me in the right mindset as a New Haven cop, and then he went to Southern. And when I came to Southern, he got me in the right mindset of how Southern, how Southern was different, in how to look at Southern. It's different than looking at police work. So I was well prepared when I made that transition, because of Marshall Gambrell. I sort of, in my time there at Southern, I've had a few New Haven police officers come in, and I passed that sort of knowledge along. I mean, and that's the other thing about police work. When you have a good mentor, it is your job to pass it along. Officer, sergeant, whatever he ended up being when he left, lieutenant Reddish. I had him as a rookie officer, and when he's head of school security, and I'll go to security officers. I said, "How's he treating you?" "Oh, he's good. He's good. He's good." I said, "Okay," because I look at him and I look at Reddish. I says, because he knows how he was and how I had to. And how I had to sort of sit him down, and he said he had to sit me down and yell at me and whatever, but to put him on the right path. And that's what you have to do.
as we conclude, let's kind of just continue on that thought about young folks that might want to enter the protective services, be it fire or police, and we're blessed. I'll use that term not loosely, but to know that even one of the sons of one of our neighbors has now entered the force.
Yes, Chris.
What would you say to some folks, young people that are thinking about a career? Because we know about the national shortage in this regard. What would you say, not necessarily as an encouragement, but just in terms of information for them to strongly consider that this is it could be a career, a passion, a calling.
It is a career. One that I, if you looked at me when I was younger, that I thought I was going to be into, no way in hell. But what I would tell them is that, keep an open mind. You're not going to be able to change the world. A lot of young cops going, I'm going to, you're not. Understand that. But you can make a difference in people's lives, in an individual's lives. And if you can make a difference in an individual's life, 1 or 2 or 3 a year, then you are definitely you're doing a good job. And that's what you should do. I should be able to make a difference in people's lives, a good difference. And if you keep that in mind, then that will help you in your decision making. Because you want to, you sometimes have to guard people against themselves, and that's not a bad thing. But you understand that they're not the enemy. The public is not the enemy. And they can help you if you allow them to. If you let them in, if you're willing to let them in and not keep them at bay, they can help you. They will help you. They want to help you. But you have to give them the opportunity to do so. And that's the one thing I did learn as a district manager in Dwight, that the community will help you if you allow them to do so.
Excellent. I think, well, we can conclude on that note. I might say I might want to offer or invite us to kind of do it again maybe this fall, but I think we can conclude on that note, that harmony that you just mentioned. We're in this together, and let's win it together. Let's win it together. Thanks so much, man.
Not a problem. Finally, we finally got it done.
We got it done. That's what perseverance is all about. Perseverance and commitment. And I'll see you soon.
Okay. Well, I'm sure.
I'll see you soon. All right. Thanks,
all right,
man.
Talk to you later.
As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'm gonna roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH LP 103.5 FM.